That night, the air outside was cold and heavy with silence. A light drizzle had just stopped, leaving the smell of damp earth lingering on the car's windshield. The man's name was Andra Prasetyo, a radio technician driving home from Surabaya to Solo. He'd spent the entire day repairing a local transmission tower and decided to travel at night to avoid the traffic. The digital clock on his dashboard read 11:48 p.m. The road from Gawi to Sragen was nearly empty, lit only by the occasional flicker of dying street lamps. The car radio played faintly, a national news report about a highway accident near Semarang. The anchor's monotone voice kept him company amid the emptiness. Then, suddenly, the signal began to hiss. Sss, krrrk. Andra turned the dial slowly. No other station came through clearly, only static. He sighed, tapping the steering wheel. Then, out of the static, came a man's voice, deep, old-fashioned, clear enough to make his blood run cold. Good evening, listeners. You're still tuned in to Radio Nusantara FM. We continue tonight's news, the collapse of the Bengawan Solo Bridge following heavy rain earlier today. Andra frowned. Radio Nusantara FM? He'd never heard of that station. And the Bengawan Solo Bridge collapsing? That was impossible. He had just crossed it a few hours ago. It was perfectly fine.
He glanced at the tuner. 103.5 megahertz. When he switched away, the voice vanished. But when he turned back, it returned, steady and chilling. The tone of the broadcast was odd, like something from an old cassette recording.
The number of casualties is reported to be 23 so far, most of them passengers on the Surabaya Solo night bus. Authorities have closed the route until further notice.
Andra's stomach turned. There was no news like that today, not on any channel, not online. He pulled over to the roadside and turned on his hazard lights. The sound grew clearer, and after a brief pause, a signature jingle played. One unmistakably vintage, warped as if from a broken tape deck.
That concludes our report for tonight, February 8th, 1997. I'm Rudy Anwar, signing off. Good night and drive safely.
Andra froze. 1997? He looked at his dashboard clock again. 12:12 a.m., 2023. A cold shiver crawled up his spine. His hands trembled slightly as he stared at the radio, now spitting out nothing but static.
He switched the radio off, started the engine again, and drove on. But his thoughts wouldn't settle. The silence in the car felt heavier than before. Rain began to fall once more, tapping against the windshield. A few kilometers ahead, he noticed a bus parked by the roadside, lights dim, body covered in grime. Painted on the front, barely visible under the mud, were the words, Sumber Jaya, Surabaya, Solo. It looked decades old, like something from the late 90s. No passengers inside, no driver. Yet the interior light glowed faintly yellow and the door hung slightly ajar. Andra slowed his car and rolled down the window. From within the bus came a faint radio broadcast, the exact same voice from before. The number of casualties reported, 23. Andra's breath caught. He slammed the gas pedal and sped away, heart hammering in his chest. He didn't need more proof. Whatever that broadcast was, it wasn't from this time.
Around 2 a.m., he stopped at a small roadside coffee stall near the old Schragen terminal. The sign above read, Pakmantos Warung, hot coffee and instant noodles. Andra sat down, lit a cigarette, and told the stall owner, an elderly man with a thick mustache, about what he had just heard. The radio, the date, the impossible news. The old man stared at him for a long moment, then gave a small, uneasy smile. "Son, what you heard wasn't a broadcast," he said quietly. "You just caught a transmission from the past." Andra frowned. "What do you mean?" The old man sighed, looking out into the fog. "It really happened, back in 1997. The old Bengawan Solo Bridge collapsed during a thunderstorm. A night bus, Sumber Jaya, plunged into the river. 23 people died. The announcer you heard, Rudy Anwar, he died too. Lightning struck the radio tower while he was on air. The studio floor gave in. He never made it out." Andra's lips parted slowly. "But that station doesn't exist anymore, does it?" The old man shook his head. "No, it's been gone for decades. But sometimes, on certain nights, the frequency comes alive again around midnight. People say if you hear it, you'll also see the Sumber Jaya bus, just like it was before it fell." Andra said nothing. His coffee had gone cold. He got back on the road half an hour later. This time, he kept the radio off and played music from his phone. But halfway through the drive, the Bluetooth connection failed. The music stopped abruptly, and from the car's speakers came that same deep voice. "Radio Nusantara FM, special coverage tonight." It wasn't just the announcer anymore. There were screams in the background, metal crashing, shouts, crying. "The bridge is collapsing! Oh God, the water's rising! Help! Help!" Andra slammed his hand on the power button, but the radio wouldn't turn off. He hit the dashboard, nothing. The volume rose on its own, shrieking through the speakers. Then, through the rain-smeared windshield, he saw the silhouette of a bus overturned across the road. Its headlights flickered once, then vanished. Andra screamed and swerved violently, missing the invisible wreck by inches. His car spun to the side and stopped dead. The engine cut off. He sat there, panting, drenched in sweat. But the radio was still on. And now, a faint, whimpering voice came through. "Rudy, help me, please." Andra threw open the door and stumbled out. The rain had stopped. The air was thick and cold, heavy with mist. The highway was empty in both directions. Then he heard it, the low rumble of a bus engine coming closer. He turned toward the sound. Through the fog appeared a dim glow, yellow headlights. A bus rolled toward him slowly, almost floating across the asphalt. And there it was again, the same Sumber Jaya bus, old, decayed, windows fogged from the inside. It came to a stop right in front of him. The driver's voice, deep, almost mechanical, called out, "Still heading to Solo, sir? Get in before you get soaked." Andra stepped back. Inside, dozens of passengers sat motionless. Their faces were pale, lifeless, staring blankly ahead. Some of their clothes were wet, dripping water onto the floor. He turned and ran. When he glanced back, the bus was gone. Only the mist remained, swirling quietly in the wind. The next morning, a passing truck driver found a car parked by the roadside with its door open. The engine was dead, yet the radio was still on, locked to 103.5 megahertz. Inside, on the driver's seat, they found a pair of skeletal hands gripping the steering wheel. No body, no trace of the driver. Even when police removed the car battery, the radio kept playing. That concludes our report for tonight, February 8th, 1997. I'm Rudy Anwar, signing off. Good night and drive safely. A few weeks later, the case drew the attention of Dr. Haru Santosa, a communications researcher from Yogyakarta State University. He visited the site, curious about the mysterious transmission. Using a spectrum analyzer, he tuned to 103.5 megahertz and began scanning. To his astonishment, he picked up the same broadcast, the 1997 news report, the thunder, the screams, the chaos. But the strangest part? There was no transmitter anywhere nearby. The signal came directly from the air, originating, according to his readings, from the direction of the Bengawan Solo River. Impossible, he later said in an interview. Radio waves don't last 26 years without an active source. Yet every night at exactly 12:12, the same signal reappears. For 3 nights he recorded it. The first 2 were identical. But on the 3rd night, while sitting in his car, he heard something new. Dr. Haru Santosa, if you're listening to this, don't go to the bridge. He froze. He hadn't spoken his name to anyone there. He switched off the device immediately, but seconds later, it powered itself back on and played his own voice, repeating the same words he'd just spoken, distorted by static, as if the frequency had recorded him in real time.
Since then, drivers passing that highway at night have shared eerily similar experiences. Some hear a faint old news broadcast. Some see a ghostly bus idling by the roadside. It always happens between midnight and 12:30 a.m. On internet forums, countless testimonies appear. My radio turned on by itself and played a 90s jingle I've never heard before. It mentioned the bridge collapse. I checked later, it really happened. 1997. One truck driver swore that he saw a pale woman sitting in the passenger seat beside him, whispering softly, "Don't listen to the radio."
Today, locals call that stretch of highway the dead broadcast route. No one dares to turn on their radio while driving through it at night. But sometimes, on damp, foggy nights, people claim they can still hear it faintly echoing in the air. Radio Mosantara FM, special coverage tonight. And for those who stay tuned until the very end, none have ever reached their destination. Their cars are found empty, engines cold, radios still alive, locked eternally to 103.5 megahertz, broadcasting from nowhere. Among truckers and night travelers, a quiet warning passes between them, spoken only in whispers. If you're crossing the Bengawan Solo past midnight and your radio turns on by itself, don't listen. Stop the car, cover your ears, because what you're hearing isn't meant for the living.